Hello, this is Edwin Dearborn, another edition of Growth Driven. What I want to talk to you about today is, are we headed for inflation in 2021 and beyond? And if so, how do we rise above the rising costs? Hey, Edwin Dearborn here, another edition of Growth Driven. I wanted to share a tweet with you, not one of my tweets, and I'll read it to you for those that are listening on the podcast. Are we headed for inflation, which I believe we are, and I'll share one indicator that would point to the fact that we are going to have inflation. Specifically, I'll go over some other indicators. But more importantly, how do we respond as business owners, as entrepreneurs, as startups? What is our strategy to defy that gravitational pull of inflation? So I'm going to share my screen with you. This is tweeted today, and I'll just go over this one fact with you. Here we go. And the tweet right there is from Breaking 911. And let me see if I can enlarge that. There we go. It says right there, the Breaking 911, that's at Breaking 911 on Twitter. Quote, new, the national average price of gas in the U.S. has risen 20.8% since the end of January, when, this is not part of the quote, that's when Biden took over. Back on the quote, is on track to hit an average of $3 per gallon this week. Okay. So now we have gas going up 20.8% in just a couple of months. Why does this indicate inflation? Well, let's take a look at how many things rely on gas and fuel. And that is, you've got your trucking, which ships goods and services, particularly goods. You have ships, container ships, obviously bringing goods from overseas and us shipping it to overseas. We have airplanes that bring goods, packages, deliveries, FedEx, the post office. All of these industries depend on gas, and they're not going to absorb the higher cost. They're going to take that 20% of rising costs, and they're going to pass it on to their clients, who will then pass it on to their clients, who will then pass it on to the entire supply chain. Moreover, not only these businesses having to pass on these rising fuel costs, but the Biden administration is already talking about raising corporate taxes. So let's say corporate taxes go up 5 or 10%. Do you think corporations are just going to absorb this cost? No, they're going to pass it on. Moreover, there's talk about, I don't know if it'll actually happen, legislating higher minimum wage. Some states have already done this. So now you have 3 factors coming into place for a business. Number one, fuel costs are going up. So whether they ship directly or receive shipped items, those items will rise in cost. So this cup of coffee, let's say the people that bring me my coffee, they're experiencing a 20% rise in cost. Well, my cup may only be $1.50, so it goes up to $1.75. Doesn't seem like much, but then everything else that I buy every day goes up 20%. Moreover, on top of that fuel costs, their taxes are going up. On top of that, their employees want more money because their costs of goods are going up. All of these things, higher taxes, higher fuel costs, have a ripple effect. And then here's the last factor. As prices are rising, you have a panic set in, mild may it be, and now people are starting to rise their prices purely on emotional reasons. If you don't believe this to be true, I want you to go interview some small business owners. Now, this is all on top of all the economic crap they had to deal with in 2020 of being put out into business. And now they have to raise prices to recoup that loss. Back to my point. If you don't believe that inflation is coming and then it's higher than what the government reports, because we always know that it's higher than what the government reports. The government has its ways of hiding bad statistics through their chicanery. It's to their advantage politically to hide real inflation because it makes them look better. It doesn't expose the fact that their policies are failing. But here's the real acid test. Go talk to 10, 15 small business owners and just ask them if they are experiencing an increase of cost of goods, an increase of cost of fuel, just what it takes to just operate a business. Payroll, taxes, rent. Is it more expensive to do business in 2021 than it is 2020 or 2019? That's our real markers for inflation. So if it's already going up and we're adding fuel costs and we're adding taxes and we're adding higher minimum wage and we're adding the fear factor all at the same time, that will be inflation. So what's the solution? In an earlier statement on social media, I said your growth is going to have to match the rate in which government is printing money. In 2020, there's various statistics that vary on this. But 20%, I believe was the average, 20% of all money ever created in the history of the United States was created in 2020. So 20% more money was put into the marketplace. Doesn't represent goods. It doesn't represent 20% more services or 20% more hamburgers or 20% more cars. It's just 20% more money. So we got more money out there chasing less goods. Another potential factor of inflation. What's the answer? Your rate of expansion will have to be at least 20% to keep up with the inflationary factors that the government is implementing. And by the way, only a government can inflate their own money through their policies, through their actions. So now here they are pumping 20% of all known printed money in the history of the United States all in 1 year through stimulus packages. They're raising taxes. They're deflating the value of the dollar. They're demanding higher rates for employees. They're instigating inflation all across of all the entire supply chain. The only answer that you and I have is to grow at least 20%. So if your business, let's say its net profits is $100,000. I know that's very low for a lot of you, but I'm just using it as a round number. By the end of this year, you're going to have to make $120,000 in profits to make up for everything the government is doing. That's just to survive. That should be your minimum benchmark. So hopefully you know your numbers. You know how much money you made, how much profit you have. You need to add 20% to your strategies, your growth strategies this year just to keep up with government nonsense. If you're not doing that, you're falling behind. Therefore, are we going to put out 20% more ads? Are we going to put out 20% more content? Are we going to get our salespeople 20% more effective? How do we get 20% more clientele? Or how do we raise our prices 20% or some type of strategy that the cumulative number equals 20% growth. If you are not thinking in terms of at least 20% growth from 2020, inflation is going to eat you alive. Guaranteed. This is just basic math. And what if I'm wrong? Let's just say everything I'm saying right now is completely crazy and I'm wrong about inflation, but you grow 20% as a hedge, as a contingency plan. That's still a benefit. So even if I'm incorrect in all of my predictions, you still win if you plan as if it's going to happen. If you take action as if, hey, you know what? We may have inflation at 20%. Is it going to happen? Highly unlikely. But we know some level of inflation is going to happen given all the factors. So if I grow 20%, will I flourish? Absolutely. Absolutely. And that needs to be your strategic mindset of how you move forward tactically with yourself, your team, your partnerships, your stakeholders, the people who believe in you, the influencers, the referral sources you work with. All of those need to be taken in consideration of how you build that strategy to grow 20%. If you do that, you now have your hedge against inflation. You have a safe margin. And isn't that what we should be doing in business? I believe so. This has been another edition of Growth Driven. Hope to see you soon. Good luck, and may you flourish and prosper. Bye-bye.